Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationship. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We are actually dropping a thought piece this upcoming Sunday, so be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you're looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available wherever podcasts are playing, and we've provided you with access to a few links down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today's topic of discussion is mental health. On the topic of mental health this week, I want to talk about the importance of broadening our horizons, of broadening our points of reference, and how that can be really good for our mental health because it contributes to the way that we look at and internalize messages from the world around us. And in a time such as this, where there's just so much going on that involves public opinion or private opinion, it's important that we do the best that we can to ensure that our private and public opinions are informed by as much information as possible. And if you've only been as far as your backyard, if you haven't really experienced much in life, then that needs to be something that you prioritize, because it really does well for you to have an understanding of how contextual our beliefs and opinions and our values are, and how they can be quickly very subject to change if the circumstances and the settings and situations were different. So I think that this is really important, because for those of us who are very convicted in our beliefs, who have really strong opinions, but they're not informed by many resources, like we have strong opinions based in not a whole heck of a lot, we can be very easily manipulated and very easily controlled by narratives that seem compelling, that seem convincing, when you don't have a broad scope of reference, when you don't have an understanding of the world beyond your specific vantage point, or beyond your neighborhood, or beyond your own personal society and culture. So I think that when we are looking at global news, and we're looking at politics, and we're looking things that are happening around the world, it's important that we look at it within the context of those specific settings. We need to look at it within the context of that history, within the context of that culture, within the context of the evolving climate and the evolving situation that's taking place there. We can't look at it from our vantage point that is completely different, that has absolutely no relation or parallels to the settings that we're making opinions on. So I think that this is really important, because a lot of people have really strong opinions. I mean, you really dig deep to get a sense as to what has informed this opinion. Not a whole heck of a lot, and I think that we need to be very cognizant of the power and the influence of our voice. And if we're using our voice to influence and to sway other people, that we're being responsible and we're making a point to ask questions, to get insight, to do the research, that we're not misinforming people or even misinforming ourselves in our own beliefs and convictions, so that we're doing things and we're calling for things to be done that just are completely against our values and our moral system, if we just had a bit of a better understanding of what was taking place. I think this is really important, and I think that the more I know, the more I understand, the more I feel inclined to reserve judgment, because I recognize that there are just different complexities at play, and a lot of the things that are taking place in relations beyond me, that without understanding those complexities, I can easily make the wrong choice, I can make the wrong decision, and I can take the wrong position. And I think that it's really important to have that moment of introspection before we speak, before we vocalize opinions, because our opinions have the ability not only to have great impact, but really bad ramifications as well. So I think that we need to understand that there's power in our words, there's power in our voice. We need to use that power with care. We need to be responsible in how we leverage that power, not just for ourselves, but for the people who are influenced and who care about the things that we say and who allow themselves to be convinced and swayed by the things that we're saying. So if we're going to be saying things that are going to sway large amounts of individuals, then we want to make sure that what we're saying is informed, that we're saying is thought through, that it's going to be something that when those words come back around, that it's not going to be something that we regret having said. And so I think this is really important, and the reason why I want to frame it within the context of mental health, because I think a lot of us, we suffer the effects of the words we chose to speak, and that's because we don't think before we say them. And I think that it's just an important practice, an important exercise to think before we speak. But if we're thinking and we're thinking within the confines of our own reality, then we need to go a step further. We need to research, we need to ask questions, we need to dig deep, and then recognize with the information that's coming up, well, are we in the best position to be the vocal point on said issue? Are we the best person to advocate for said issue, when we've recognized with some of the research that we've done that we've barely scratched the surface by way of what needs to be understood to be able to take an informed position on a conversation that has really important implications. So I think that especially, on my side of the ocean, I grew up in Canada, and also having my politics being informed a lot by American politics, I learned that this really, before we speak, is important to make sure that we have an informed position. We also ensure that when it is the case that we speak and we make a position, that our positions are conditional on the things that we understand, and we're very explicit on the things that we don't understand. And once we have an understanding of those things, then they might inform our position differently. And it's also important that we recognize that not every hill is a hill we want to die on, right? So even if you have a position based on the current climate and settings, recognize that to be so convicted about your position, that new information that should sway a reasonable person, if it's not swaying you, then your belief is more rooted in dogma than it is in what the actual circumstances and situations are saying about said situation. So we want to make sure that we check our dogmas, check our prejudice, check our own beliefs and our own, reasons for thinking certain ways, and check for any irrationalities in those thought patterns, or check for any, biases and assumptions that are misinformed in those thought patterns, so that when we're speaking, we're making intelligent and valuable contributions to a larger conversation that impacts a large majority of individuals. So I think that this is so important, because I think that a lot of us, we suffer the impact of our words, right? We can be the biggest victims of the things that we say, because the things we say, we can't take them back. And I think what makes the internet an interesting but also dangerous place to play is when you say something and when you post it online, it's there forever, right? If you're saying it in a small community of people, local to you, then maybe there is some forgiveness there. But if you're going on a platform on the internet, even if you think you've deleted it, even if you've outgrown that way of thinking, it's there somewhere buried. You can't delete things when they go online. And even prior to my going online, my deciding to be a presence online, I had a lot of thinking to do about whether or not I had the maturity, if I felt ready to do it, because I had a lot of education around the internet and around the fact that when something is posted on the internet, that's part of your identity forever. So you want to make sure that how you represent yourself in a way that you allow yourself room for growth, that people will give you room to grow in the things that you have said, and how that creates continuity or otherwise the things that you're saying present day. So I think this is super important. I think that it is an important conversation that we recognize that our ways of communicating, our ways of being online impact us as much as it impacts those around us. And it is something that plays into mental health, right? If we're making strong, outrageous comments and that's swaying people to do things that we never thought that they would do, then how could that not have a negative impact on you, right? So we want to make sure that when we're making commentary, when we're making an opinion piece, that we're making an informed one or we're not making them at all. And I don't think that everyone has to have a point of view on everything that's happening around the world. I think some of us need to understand that we're in the learner's seat. If this is our first time hearing a conversation about events and situations that are taking place that feel like, it feels like, okay, well, I feel something. I have like an emotional pull based on what's taking place. I care about what's taking place, but that doesn't mean that you are an informed person to speak about what's taking place. Sometimes I think that where we care, where we have concern, where we feel certain of our values and our convictions and our morals and our beliefs are being triggered, then we want to make a point to be learners first, to understand the setting, to be as objective as possible in our understanding of that situation, and then take that learner's seat as far as we can go in cultivating a position that is informed, recognizing that there's always very many layers and depths to conversations that we hear online, that a lot of that depth is stripped away to make it digestible. But you want to understand the complexities, you want to understand the depth before you form an opinion. I think that that's really important, not just for the people who are hanging on every word that you're speaking, but for yourself, because a lot of the times we are hung by our words, and that's like a really morbid way of putting it. But we want to make sure that when we're speaking in a way where the future version of ourselves isn't going to regret the position we took or the ways that we took those positions. In any case, that's the food for thought for today. That's the thinking that I want to leave you with today. I think a lot of us have a lot of mixed emotions about what's taking place, but I think that while you have those mixed emotions, while you might feel inclined to vent, to speak up, to articulate them, I think that if you're doing it from a place of seeking clarification, great. But if you're translating those mixed emotions into strong positions where you don't know enough, I urge you to first learn, to educate yourself, to take a learner's seat before you speak up and you represent points of view that are beyond your realm of understanding and your current scope of reference. All of us have the ability to broaden your scope of reference, and I challenge you to do the same. In any case, that was it for today, but definitely not all. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page, so definitely be sure to tune in. These events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, then I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops, largely focused on self-mastery over and above these events. So check it out. Be part of our game changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. We are on the road to 1K, so we do invite you to follow us across all of our social media platforms, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.